Hi, everyone. I'm James Garbutt.
And I'm Denny Dumas.
And this is the Garbutt Dumas Real Estate Podcast. All right, Danny, we're going to talk about what's happening in the single-family home market right now. Because I looked at last 30 days in a few areas prior to showing up here today. And I think it's important to kind of tell a story of what the market's actually doing, because we're going to see some headlines that are going to be telling a skewed story over the day, if you haven't seen them already.
No.
So that we're doing
Vancouver?
this. Yeah.
Headlines?
It is June 1st. There is a bank rate announced today, a bump of another 0.5%. There will be a slowdown coming, but the whole purpose of this episode is just to give you a snapshot of what's happening now, because we do get a lot of questions. Should I wait? Should I buy something right now? Truthfully, it depends is the answer. And there's a lot of scenarios where it's a yes, and there's scenarios where it's a no. But no one can confidently predict what's happening 6 months from now. So what I did is just looked at the last 30 days and tried to get a little picture of how single-family detached homes are doing in certain markets. And I chose them because single-family homes generally have a relatively fixed supply. So their supply is typically lower. It has been lower than demand. So if there's any product that's going to hold up, it's single-family homes, in my opinion anyway. So let's acknowledge a few things. The May stats haven't come out, so I'm going off of the real estate board stats for April and sales that I've just looked up myself. And in April was a month where sales were 1.5% above the 10-year average. The real estate board uses that 10-year average term. When it goes below the 10-year average, you're feeling a slow market. When it's above, you're feeling a hot market. When it's right around it, it's kind of a normal market. So April was as normal of a market as we've experienced in, say, 2 years. Buyers have more time to make decisions, secure financing, do a home inspection. Those are back, but not always. Sometimes you have to do it before offer time. So let's acknowledge
the majority, though. I made a comment to someone the other day. They're like, "What is the buying condition like right now?" I was like, "It's like a spa day. It's like being at a spa, lying down. Someone's rubbing your back. You're getting all the information up front. It's very, I don't know. It's different. You have so much more time. You can write subjects in your offer. You can even push it to 10 or 12 days with subjects, right? You might get a little bold, Jamie.
Yeah.
You might get a little bold and throw a subject to sale in there. It's an interesting time to be a buyer right now. There is a lot of flexibility. You have a lot more time to breathe.
So if it's like a spa day today, comparatively, like February would have been like getting in the line at the soup Nazi in Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah. Perfect analogy right there.
Is that?
Don't say the wrong thing in your love letter to the seller, because if you do, you're out the door.
No soup for you. Seinfeld reference. We're fans here. Okay, let's talk about a few markets. I'll start with East Vancouver, because East Van historically has been a relatively bulletproof market. It seems to be hot when other markets are slow. But over the last 30 days, median house price in East Van has been $1.935 million. The average sale price to list price ratio is 100%. So on average, they're getting 100% of the list price. The median days on market, 9 days on market. And about 30% of listings that sold in the last 30 days were getting over asking. So 30% over asking. Still statistically a seller's market when you look at the actual sales. I can't comment on all the overpriced listings that have hit the market that haven't sold though. One real big highlight was we're at June 1st today. I took a sample of April 15th to May 15th, a 1 month sample, and compared 2022 to 2021 for East Vancouver detached homes. 2021, 202 sales for detached homes in that 30-day window. 2022, 88 sales. So sales numbers very much down. New Westminster, our home, where we're podcasting from today. 40% of the listings sold above asking in the last 30 days. 9 days on market was a median. You're going to see that as a pretty common theme. The sale price to list price ratio, 103. So on typical homes, most homes were above list. Or sorry, not most homes, but the average sale price to list price was 103% of the list price. And the median house price was $1.525 million. Now, I'll just mention New Westminster does have Queensborough, and Queensborough is more affordable, and it does bring the average down.
On New West,
yeah.
I'll just mention, because in a listing appointment the other day, I was just looking at some stats. So this is as of like 3 days ago. From May 1st to May 28th is when I looked. There had been 8 posted single-family sales in New Westminster. There was 60 listings active outside of Queensborough, excuse me, excluding Queensborough. So it seems like even from April that in New West, activity is slowing quite a bit.
I could see that. And we should acknowledge New West does have a lot of old homes, a lot of quirky homes. Yeah. We have a land assembly listing. There's a few of them around town. So there are some products that are not your typical product that might be building up on market.
Totally.
Yeah. Sales volume similar to East Van, but less dramatic. It's about half. When I looked at the same sample from April 15th to May 15th, 2022 versus 2021. This year was 24 sales. 2021 was 43 sales. So approximately half the sales volume. Port Moody, 60% of detached homes were getting over asking in the last 30 days. Let's acknowledge Port Moody's a smaller market. The sample of sales is small. You can have skewed data when there's less than 20 homes selling in a month. But big difference. Like I said, New West median home price was 1,525. Median home price in Port Moody was $2,015,000. So $2,015,000. And then the average sale price to list price ratio over the last 30 days was 103%. Median days on market, 8. So still strong seller's market for the properties that are selling. Sales volume was almost like a third of what it was in 2022 versus 2021 when comparing that April-May window. And last market I'll highlight, and these are kind of all relatively stronger markets, so let's acknowledge that single family in these markets are pretty strong, is North Vancouver. North Vancouver, 30% of single family homes last 30 days were selling with bidding wars above asking. The sales price to list price ratio on average was 101%. 8 days on market was the median. The median sale price for a home in North Van was $2.21 million. And sales volume is down, but not as much. So April 15th to May 15th, 2021 had 156 sales, and in 2022 there was 105 sales. So all those markets are still experiencing a seller's market for detached homes. Now, bank rates got announced today. That could shift. Is it going to shift into a buyer's market where the sales ratio is below 20% and we start seeing 98% sale price to list price averages? I don't see that yet. I don't know. It doesn't seem that way, but if it's going to happen, it's going to be in a few months. There's going to be a bit of a lag. And on the slow side of the spectrum, where are the markets slow? So, one thing I didn't do, which would be obvious if you were to isolate $3 million and above suburb listings and sales, that is a strong buyer's market. There are not enough 3 million plus homes selling in the suburbs. I don't have specific data on that, but in terms of a city that was showing data that was slower, West Vancouver came to mind. And West Van this has been one of those, I guess if you go back 10 years ago or 15 years ago, West Van was more expensive than North Van. West Van was more desirable in price points on average. And one of the latest trends or recent trends the last 2 years is North Van has gone on a tear. North Van has become more popular. There are always exceptions to this, but North Vancouver, by the numbers, by the data, has far outperformed West Van. And it's kind of funny because if 15 years ago, if someone said a house in Blue Ridge, North Van, or Lynn Valley, North Van, would be more expensive than a house in Caulfield, West Van, if it was like apples to apples, I'd say get out of town. But arguably today, if you kind of went, say, Caulfield, and I'm using Caulfield as an example, but there's a lot of examples of when you look at a house that sold in West Vancouver to what was traditionally an average neighborhood in North Van, where the North Van home outperformed the West Van home. So we'll see if that trend reverses. West Van's sunnier, so maybe one day it'll get the trend back. West Vancouver had 5% of bidding wars where listings were selling above asking in the last 30 days. So West Van just typically is used to listing high and negotiating low, and they never really jumped on that underpricing train. But 5% of listings get bidding wars. 95% was the sale price to list price ratio. So on average, 5% off list price in West Van. The median house price was $3.3 million. Anytime you have a house price that high, it's going to give you a different story of stats. And average median days on market was 9. But overall, West Van was the market, and maybe because it's got the higher price point average, that was least in favor of sellers that I could find.
Yeah. I didn't pull any stats on Anmore, but I would put Anmore probably,
up there
probably up there, right?
Yeah. I think one fun thing to highlight is, well, the highlight sales of the last 30 days. And the winner goes to a Point Grey home that got $22 million. Beautiful home, by the way. I highly suggest you look it up. But on Point Grey home, there was a house that sold for $22 million in the last 30 days. Fronting on the water, your neighbor's the Lululemon guy, so Chip Wilson. But one thing I will say is, like, the second highest sale was 8.5. So 22 million, and then the second highest sale on the MLS was 8.5, and that was a West Vancouver home. Other notables, Tawasin had a home on Pacific, which is the English Bluff area, that sold for 4.75 million. Looked beautiful, had a nice pool, looked like an estate. And then Langley on First Ave, South Langley, had a home that got 5 million. But every home over 5 million that sold in the last 30 days had a West Vancouver or Vancouver West address. So that's where the wealth is. Outside of that, there's a lot of houses in the burbs over 4 million, over 3 million that are just sitting. And I don't know if that market is going to improve anytime soon.
It's always the last to improve, right? It usually is once those $1.5 million homes get to 2 million, that's when they start moving upwards to those luxury homes. But yeah, I could see those 3 million plus homes in the suburbs having another 2019 for the next 12 months. That very difficult to sell.
I guess one other comment I'll make is North Van, 30% bidding wars, New West, 40% bidding wars in the last 30 days. I think if I looked at North Van stats 2 months ago, it would have been like 90% bidding wars, and New West would have been about 80% potentially.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like, I think that New West has a shortage of good homes. So that is the kicker. And North Van has a ridiculous amount of demand. So those two markets, I'm very curious to see what happens, because I think New West tells a good story for a lot of inner city suburb markets, and North Van kind of tells a story for, I don't know, the trends of where families that value outdoor amenities and ski mountains and water, and North Van tells a story for what the North Shore is doing, and with what North Van's doing is similar to Port Moody, similar to high-end sort of suburb markets, call it.
It's interesting to hear, what did you say, North Van, 40% of homes were selling, 30% of homes are selling above asking. I mean, this is a bit of a estimated guess, but based on what we've kind of seen in the last couple months, I would guess that, here's an example. In January, I had a client offer on a house in Blue Ridge that got 22 offers, I think. So I would guess that out of those 30% that are selling over asking, the average of multiple offers is more in the range of like 2 to 5. Versus in December, January, February, there was so much activity, there was so little inventory that it wasn't uncommon to see 12 plus offers on homes.
There was a client of ours offered on a place in Lynn Valley, 3,100 square foot home, quiet lot, great potential floor plan. It needed some cosmetic renos. But it was a top tier house, and people wanted it. 6 offers ended up coming on that one, and that one probably would have got 20 offers if it was in February.
Totally.
Yeah, so 3,100 square foot, 30-year-old home, needs a reno interior, but nice backyard, quiet street, $2.25 million in Lynn Valley.
Interesting. Was it listed at 199?
I think so.
Yeah. Because in January, February, listed at 199, I could see that getting more like 2.4.
Yeah.
So even though we're seeing multiple offers, I think those like lucky big sale numbers that were common in February probably aren't there anymore.
I think this is a really good time to acknowledge when we're talking about that sort of caliber of home going from 20 offers to 6. It's a good offer. That's a good reason not to wait if you're buying that type of home. Will 6 offers go to 0 offers, and will 0 amount to a 10% pullback in pricing? Maybe, but for me, anyone that's looking at that quiet street, good shell, I mean, nothing, I love a 3,100 square foot home with a good shell. Anyone that's looking for that product, there's probably buyers that have been looking for that for a year or two that are just frustrated, that have experienced terrible buying conditions, a lot of price changes. And it would be hard for anyone to recommend for that buyer to wait. If there's a chance that this little market slump could get worse over the next 2 months and could be a slump for a year and a half. But if you wait for the media to tell you the market's hot, you're too late. So you want to buy when everyone's fearful. And my guess is this summer might be the best time. If it's not this summer, it's probably going to show up in the fall. But if I were to take a stab at it, I would think that next spring, whatever's going on now with the bank rates have settled out. And I think we're going to be back on track next spring. But that's a wild guess.
We made a comment in April 2020 after COVID hits. We basically, similar to the foreign buyer tax in 2016, we saw prices drop 10-15% overnight when lockdown happened for COVID. And we made a comment that said, buy a house now or you may never be able to own a house. And obviously we saw like an 18-month crazy run where single family probably went up 40 to 50% in some neighborhoods. We've seen it backtrack 10-15% or more in some areas. So I want to throw that comment out there again. Like if you're thinking of upsizing and you were frustrated with how crazy the market was in the last 18 months, the next 6 months could be a really good opportunity to make that upsize actually work. The difference between that single family home and the townhouse that you own or the condo that you own, that gap has closed in the last 3 months. And so the next 6 could be a really good opportunity. A lot less buyers out there that are active. And I kind of tend to agree with you that if interest rates keep climbing, it sounds like it's going to be one more jump, and then it'll probably plateau for a little bit. And I could see consumers getting comfortable with interest rates and comfortable with the 10, 15, 20% drop that we've seen in single family. And I could see next spring being quite active.
In short, what would be your key takeaway? If great market to upsize in. Watch it.
Totally.
Yeah, don't wait for the market to turn around.
Totally. Great market to upsize in. We talk about this all the time, but like if you're buying and selling at the same time, look at the entire equation. Yes, maybe your townhouse has gone down $150,000 in the last few months, but if you are looking to get into single family that's gone down $250,000, that equation makes a lot more sense today.
In the months ahead, you might be more likely to get away with a subject to sale offer. You might, it's different. And I think a subject sale is far more prominent if you get in the higher price points, call it a $2.5 million plus home. If you're going after a $1.8 million home, you're still in the sweet spot of an active price point.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to get away with anything there.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see what happens.
I'm excited.
That's it.